Alright everyone, yesterday the lamestream legacy hacks decided, hey, we need to do basically what CNN did with the damning WikiLeaks release. You remember when that major batch of Podesta and DNC shit came out from WikiLeaks? And the DNC at first tried to deny it was even real, but then said, oh, this was stolen, so they confirmed it was real. They had their flunkies at CNN come out and lie to people on the national stage and say, hey, if you read WikiLeaks releases, that is illegal. You just let us read it and tell you what's in it and what you need to know. Which is about the biggest, most propagandist bullshit lie of the entire election. It's absolutely wrong, and nobody should pay any attention to CNN after they failed to kick that one pundit off who said that. Now that same MSM that is so trustworthy and benevolent and is looking out for us so much that they want to start World War III, says that Russia is the main driving force behind Release the Memo. Okay, it's Russia promulgating it. It's not a case of, hey, a bunch of representatives from Congress with significant audiences began tweeting out, hey, there's a memo that's been circulating and it's really, really damaging and the American people need to see this. It couldn't be that a bunch of independent minds like myself then took hold of that and began spreading it internet-wide because it was a significant story and that's sort of what we're fucking paid to do. No, it had to be Russia. Russian bots drove it up there into trending, and so Twitter benevolently decided to replace it with, oh, no, Russian-linked Twitter is the one doing it, and so that was trending actually for a while thereafter for some hours. And it's bullcrap. Twitter knocked it off of trending, despite the fact that it's probably still the number one thing people at the moment are talking about. That and the shutdown are the only things worth talking about anyway at the moment that are at least current. You can talk about all sorts of other stuff. But as far as its relevancy to the national stage of the world, of course, a different story. I find it very interesting that the Rutland refugee program's been shut down. The average person, though, doesn't fucking care. So why would you expect it to trend? Instead, you look at trending right now, it's probably people's favorite ice cream flavors. One thing, Franklin Graham gets to trend because he said, oh yeah, Trump's done a good job in his first year. Yeah, that's really relevant compared to a memo that apparently contains such damning information that even slimeballs within the U.S. House of Representatives want to tell people. They actually want to be transparent. When's the last time Congress wanted transparency? You realize how horrible it must be, the content of the FISA abuse memo, in order for them to actually come out, risk bereaving themselves of their own party in order to come out. You think a Mitch Bitch McConnell wants transparency on it? No, he's a neoliberal, so he wants it to stay under wraps. You got a handful of mavericks like a Rand Paul who want it to be released. Now, Rand Paul came out. He was, the sane person in the conversation. He's like, oh, it's very interesting. The Senate votes to renew FISA, and then, the next day you got this memo coming out and they want it released so people can know how shitty FISA is. It's interesting how it just barely post-dates its reauthorization by the Senate. Hopefully it's a ploy to get Trump to not sign it. That'd be so great. But yeah, the MSN is totally wrong. They've been trying to use Russia as a deflection for every problem that they have. Oh, Trump said that we're not trustworthy? Oh, he's colluding with Russia. Oh, there was a leak in the DNC? Russians did it. Oh, they want a memo release that shows quite clearly that FISA is abusing the U.S. population and probably, has something to do with spying on the Trump campaign, corroborating everything he said during the election. Oh, we can't have that. That's Russia linked. Isn't it interesting that literally every single thing for over a year now that has been bad for the establishment in some measurable way is chalked up to one of two things. Nazis did it or Russians did it. Isn't that interesting? Everything that challenges the establishment status quo that hasn't worked for anybody in decades is the result of a foreign state. I would say this. If you want Russia to run roughshod over the U.S., all you have to do is have such a lack of transparency, so little accountability, and such a general prevailing notion that the establishment doesn't work and won't change that it makes it easy for Russia to make such claims. It makes it easy for propaganda to actually happen. I don't think this is propaganda for a second. This is grassroots predominantly. And if it's being promoted by Russian bots, I don't care. Because what does that have to do anything? What does it matter? It doesn't make any difference. It's still there. It was already trending. A bunch of representatives and a bunch of people with 6- and 7-figure fan bases came out and were pushing it. Well, I'm not controlled by Russia. I'm critical of the Russian state. but I'm still going to push this hashtag because I think it's something of import within the realm of politics and U.S. society. I saw one person, I think this was a couple of weeks ago actually, they had some university-built thing where you can put like a Twitter handle in there and it'll analyze the Twitter and determine whether it's likely to be a bot or not. I think I scored like 50-50. Like there was a 50% confidence that my account on there was a robot. That really activates the almonds now, doesn't it? I assumed that it was because primarily a lot of the posts that I do on Twitter is I put out YouTube videos, and of course they're going to be from the same account because it's my fucking YouTube account. I'm assuming that's probably why, but doesn't this show that what they say is Russian-linked Twitter or a Russian bot could be inaccurate? They could just, what if it's a Russian person but they're not a bot? What if it's a Russian person who, they're like a Clintonian or something and they don't like the current government because Trump is leading it? How do you have any clue? You don't. You've never talked to these people or attempted communication. Like, I'm going to trust the organizations that cause, the Iraq War, that let politicians get away with literal murder from time to time, that donate to political campaigns that currently are not in power. Boo-hoo for you. It sucks. You wasted billions of dollars. Am I really going to trust these people to tell me what is or is not real? No, especially in the tech world, because let's say that they've got benevolent motives, they could still get it wrong. Most of these people, they don't have any idea how, like, Twitter works, apparently. They don't know how to, they probably don't even know how to upload a YouTube video. They have some staffer do it for them. Like, I'm going to trust them. Hard-hitting investigative journalism. Our investigation concludes that anyone who wants the memo to be released so people know what the hell is going on with FISA is a Russian! Yay! Now, how convenient for you. How convenient for the establishment. It's just wonderful. Russia's spreading this material. You do realize that China's the bigger threat, correct? More population, more tech literacy in some cases, much, much bigger budget to pay for hackers and propagandists, as opposed to Russia that right now is squandering its money trying to modernize nuclear weapons that they're going to have to ultimately get rid of some of them to pay for the rest anyway. That's Russia's idea. They're still trying to take their rust bucket aircraft carrier and give it a new coat of paint. And meanwhile, China's running roughshod over us in the Spratly Islands. Trump has challenged them more than Obama, but it's, obviously not enough. They're trying to buy influence with neighboring countries. They're constantly standing in our way, and Trump is correct on trade, certainly, with China being horribly lopsided. Everyone, meanwhile, is fixated on Russia and Nazis, two non-existent threats, largely. Sure, Russia conducts propaganda. So do we. We conduct propaganda against Russia all the time. You're not going to hear about that from CNN. You're not going to hear a write-up about that. I remember years ago when they came out with an article where the Air Force is proudly bragging about all of its SOC Facebook accounts that it used to spread pro-US propaganda. Nobody even talks about that anymore. Nobody talks about the domestic surveillance apparatus blatantly violating the Constitution. No, just fixate on Russia. Don't talk about how FISA violates the Fourth Amendment. That's Russian bullshit. Don't talk about how FISA was reauthorized by people who are largely morons and know nothing about tech anyway. Now that's a Russian lie too. Don't believe anything that anyone outside of the lamestream tells you. Those YouTubers are Russians and Nazis. The podcast is Russian Nazis. Everything's a Russian Nazi. You'd think that Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin teamed up, won World War II in an alternate timeline of history if you went by what CNN says. That's blatantly incorrect. It's propaganda. It's an attempt to mindfuck the entire U.S. population into obeisance to a bunch of idiots who don't even know how to run the country. So yeah, I think that my opinion on the FISA memo is fairly evident at this point. I don't believe this at all. I don't believe it has anything to do with the Russian-backed Twitter. And if it did, well then thank you to Russia for actually doing us a solid and attempting to help us gain some transparency, probably helping us maintain our nation in the future. Maybe the Russian state's just worried that we're going to collapse under the weight of neoliberalism, and they're like, oh shit, if our main rival is gone, things are going to be boring. Our population will get decadent like the Americans post-mid-1990s, and it'll cause all sorts of societal upheaval here. No, we need the Cold War back. We need to gain more transparency over there so they can blame us for hacking so we can keep the shtick going even though there will never be a nuclear war. Maybe it's a joint effort by a bunch of Illuminati in Russia and the United States to keep things from being too fucking boring so that people fall into utter decadence. Okay, maybe they're doing us a solid. Maybe thank the Bohemian Grove members or something. It'd be more believable than saying, oh, Russia is trying to cause transparency of the U.S. government. Well then, Russia's on the side of the U.S. population then. That's basically what you're admitting. Same with WikiLeaks. Oh, it's illegal to read WikiLeaks releases. No, it's not. No, CNN's totally wrong. And they're the idiots that promulgate this sort of bullshit. No, it's not Russia pushing a hashtag. It's you pushing a counter hashtag to try to cover your asses because you and your neoliberal friends don't want the FISA-gate memo released. It's an attempt to prevent transparency and ascribe it to a foreign state to make people think it's partisan in nature. Oh, Trump, evil Russia, lexicon of evil Nazis. They're the ones pushing this. We have to stop them. We can't have transparency. All the Democrats vote against releasing the memo. Well, screw off. No, people have a right to read it if it shows general abuse of the U.S. population and our constitutional rights. That's about all. Peace out.